Good evening and welcome to a second Inside Government, a show produced here at Hugh Community College and shown on Spectrum, Verizon, Fios, as well as ARMA, the Auburn Regional Media Access, and Win 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. Last week, the Superintendent of Schools for the Auburn District, Misty Slavic, kicked off a district-wide food drive, in part due to the uncertainty of the SNAP program, better known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, that has been bouncing around because of the federal government shutdown. Nearly 42 million Americans rely on SNAP, and that's 1 in 8 Americans overall. Many of them are children. We're joined by the Assistant Superintendent for Student Services for the Auburn District, Sarah Passarello, to talk about the challenges that her students are facing, but also how the food drive is operating and who the food is going to, and if you can participate. Welcome to Inside Government. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much.
To do this. We're going to talk about a number of things, but how I found out about this last Saturday morning, 2 Saturday mornings ago, I got an email from the superintendent, which I'm assuming just went to parents in the district, saying there was a district-wide food drive. So why?
Well, for many of the reasons that you just described, we like to support our own within our school district, and we're all about students. That's the whole point of having a school district. And I will be honest that a lot of our buildings were already aware of what was to come and what our families were going to potentially be going through. So they were already brainstorming. But like what often happens when you have 7 different buildings, there were 7 different ideas that were going. And to give credit to the school board and to our superintendent, they came up with the idea and got it out as fast as they could to let's just unify us and go forth as one.
So when you say what was to come, was it because the day this came out was the day that the first benefits were going to be impacted on November 1st? Or do you mean other issues that residents of the district were going to face in the coming months because of the economy or other reasons?
Really always we're looking at getting food into our students' hands. We already have a district food pantry that we work with the food pantry of CNY, and we always are looking for any student that mentions anything about being hungry or they don't have food at home. We have a pantry that's housed at Genesee, but all 7 buildings have access to it. So it's something that's always on our mind, but knowing that benefits were going to be coming to an end or put on pause, or as soon as the conversation started to reach us that there's a potential that our students might not have access to food, people immediately started to jump into action.
So November 3rd, last Monday, was the first day you started taking food in. Did you start getting stuff starting last Monday?
Absolutely.
All right, so what's coming in the doors?
The response was incredible. I went to different buildings to drop off boxes with lids to make sure the food was staying secure while we were housing it. And the first day I went into Genesee and Seward, and there was already too much food almost.
Okay.
And so
but that does not mean people should stop donating.
Oh, please don't. Okay. I was going to explain that a little bit more. So what we find is that there's certain spots of town that have a higher need than others. And so what we did is we started repurposing. So we have a system set up where they'll reach out to me, and we work as a team to make sure, like if we need more food on the west end of town, but there's a lot coming in on the east end.
And we should say you were the principal at Genesee.
I was,
So that's one of what might be considered 2 very high needs schools on the west side of the city of Auburn.
Yep, so Genesee and Casey Park have higher socioeconomic lower socioeconomic numbers. They have a higher capacity. So that's where the need is, but it's not to say that there isn't a need across all of our buildings.
I want to get into need, but I'm wondering what you're getting. So you had asked for such things, non-perishable things, such as pasta, rice, peanut butter, cereal. Is that what you're mainly asking people to do?
Yeah, shelf-stable items. I touched base with
So don't send eggs.
Please don't. No, we don't have a way to store
Okay.
it. No. And I touched base with our homeless coordinator, and she said microwavable items are really what's best. We have a lot of families that are living in hotels that don't have access to stoves. So microwavable items are hot items.
And how will this all be distributed? And have you already started to distribute? Because SNAP is not back. The government is still, as we tape this, at 3:30 on the 11th, the government is still not open for business in the sense of the SNAP program, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so are you distributing some of this already?
Yes.
Or was this an ongoing, you were still distributing pre-SNAP crisis or not?
Yeah, so now it's just bigger. It's going to be constantly ongoing. If we have food sitting there, it's going home with families. We got a generous donation from Wegmans of brown paper bags, so the buildings have stuff to put the food in to go home with the students.
And this is only for district residents, district families, correct? Is it only for children, families with children in the district?
So yes and no. So we're going to send home with families first. So if a student's leaving for the day and they're taking a bag with them, so it goes to our students. But if we have food coming in faster than it's going out, then we are going to donate to the pantries.
Which are all still in need.
Right, yep.
So do you have to be SNAP eligible to take advantage of this program? So how does the average, because obviously you don't want to say to a kid, hey, are you hungry? How do you get it into their hands, and what's the process? I'm assuming you're a principal at Genesee. How many young people did you have there?
We had like 350.
You know all 350.
Yeah.
You kind of figure out, but what happens if you don't figure out? How do you make sure that somebody isn't going hungry?
Well, a lot of that goes back to relationships. Like you said, you know your students. Obviously, at this level, I don't know all of them, but I know that our student services, our teachers, our building administrators, they know the students. But the nice thing, too, is that through our homeless grant, we have a homeless coordinator, and those are our neediest populations. We do home visits. They're contacting parents who are a little bit more open about their need. So if we aren't catching it with the students, we're catching them if they come in for parent-teacher conferences and whatever other meetings pop up.
So you mentioned homelessness, and most likely the last time we discussed that there was a different superintendent, Jeff Parazola. He was here with his budget person, whose name was Lisa Green, who you might know.
Heard of her.
Your mom. We talked about homelessness back then. Do you have an idea of how many homeless families are in Auburn that send students to school? Yes.
So the numbers keep increasing each year. This year, we're already over 100 students that fall under McKinney-Vento. It could be that they're in a hotel, a motel. They could be doubled up with a relative temporarily. So we're already probably close to 150 students this school year alone.
Out of how many in a district?
We're at just shy of 4,000 students.
So in doing all of this, do we have, not we, but do you have numbers of, how many students are at the poverty level, or how many get SNAP benefits at this stage? Do you have an idea of that?
Yes, I have some rough numbers. So for what's labeled as poverty in our system, we are at about just over 2,200 students.
So about half.
Which is, almost
more than half.
Almost 60%
Okay.
of our population.
And do you know how many of those get SNAP? That's more of a county.
Yeah, so I was actually surprised when I was doing a little research that the numbers didn't align, because I thought they would go hand in hand, as I'm also learning as we go through this. But we're at about 32% of our students receiving SNAP, so about 1,200.
Okay. So how does somebody, if you don't have a student in the district, can you still donate?
Absolutely.
So how do you do that?
So I would recommend dropping off to 78 Thornton Ave, which is our district office. You can bring donations there. We're open 8 to 4. But if you are closer to a school building and you want to go up to those doors as well, any school building. Yep, buzzed in.
Are you taking cash?
We are not.
Okay.
That gets into, with the school district, that's a little bit more difficult to manage.
But if somebody wants to donate cash, they should go to a food pantry or.
Absolutely, because I know they're in need as well. Yes.
I mentioned that you were principal before. So for the assistant superintendent of student services, what's your portfolio? What are you responsible for besides the weight of the world right now?
Yeah, there's people with more weight on their shoulders. So my umbrella covers transportation, nursing. Then we get our social workers, counselors, school psychologists, special education. I feel like there's more, but it's more of like a high level anything where a student's in need. I'm the homeless liaison, the foster care liaison. I sit on a lot of community boards that are about, how do we get services into our area.
And so how long have you been in the job?
I am just over a year now.
And who'd you take over for?
Camille Johnson, big
Okay.
shoes to fill.
Good. Okay. So how long have you been with the district?
I think this is my 13th year.
Okay. And what positions did you have in the district before?
I started as a math teacher at Cayuga Centers, and then I did assistant principal at Casey Park in Seward, and then principal at Genesee, and now this position.
How long were you at Genesee?
3.5 years.
Okay.
Yep.
So I want to go back to a little bit to the funding of the program, in the sense that even if the SNAP benefits were to turn on miraculously tomorrow night after the House votes, that is not going to solve the hunger needs for Auburn, correct? Right. So your expectation is this will go on. You will still collect food well beyond the government starting back up.
Yeah, at the very least, we're going to continue this up until Thanksgiving break, just because as we head into breaks, there's always more of a need for food anyway when we go on to long weekends or extended vacations.
And were there schools that already had pantry? You mentioned Genesee.
Yep.
Were there other schools was it only elementary? Did you have one next door at the middle school? Did you have one at the high school? How was everything not coordinated? And it's not in a bad way. Everybody from within tried to figure out a solution to a problem, and then you all came together.
Yeah, so the pantry is for the whole district. We put it in a building where there is more need, but the social workers will swing by Genesee and pick up anything to service their students. However, it's a lot easier when there's donations right to the building, and then they already have it there and don't have to travel to get it. There's strict guidelines for food pantries, so we can't really, it gets too loose if we put it in multiple buildings, so it's easier to meet the regulations when it's housed just at Genesee. But it is for everybody. And
for those who may not, as we wrap up, from the food component, from what you've seen as a principal, as a teacher, as a math teacher, as a principal, assistant principal, hunger in our community, how big a problem is this for learning from the students you've seen in high needs school? Because you've been at two very high needs elementary schools.
Yes, and at Casey Park in Genesee, but even at Seward too, in all of our buildings, it doesn't matter what life you come from. If you're hungry, you're focusing on when your next meal is, about your stomach rumbling. Maybe you're an older sibling and you're worried about your younger siblings who might be hungrier, and your mind starts to wander, and with worry and maybe anxiety, and academics isn't as important when you're not getting that fuel.
And that's what's generated before you came aboard, was these breakfast programs that you have at all elementary schools?
Yep.
And so, and then you have free lunch. Do you have any idea of the percentage? This is a really unfair question, but do you get a large amount of students who come in for breakfast? And what about free lunch during the day?
So I do not have an exact number, but I do know a lot of students take advantage of it. The nice thing about breakfast is that it's grab and go on your way in the door. So it's not you go to your classroom and now you're singled out because you have to walk down to the cafeteria. I would say more than half of the students in every building are accessing it. That could be wrong.
So your idea is that of all things, you don't want to stigmatize children, because if you do, then they won't avail themselves of that service.
Right.
And so the key here is whether it's the brown paper bags from Wegmans that they can take home, or it's coming in for school lunch or early morning breakfast. Does that early morning program exist at the middle school and high school levels as well?
I believe so, but to be honest with you, I don't know.
Okay, so that cafeteria service is not under
not under me. That's Tessa.
That's okay.
So that's not my umbrella.
We'll ask her when she comes in on the budget. So before we go, I wanted to ask again, how can people help out, whether you're a parent or if you're just somebody good in this community that wants to make a difference? How can they help the district out with the district-wide approach?
So at this time, our food drive is up and running. It's going to run through Thanksgiving. And if you are able, even something small will go a long way. We will take donations at any of our 7 school buildings or at the district office. And items to keep in mind are microwavable meals, soup, ramen, your SpaghettiOs, your Chef Boyardee, anything like that. And a big hit that brings a smile to the kids' faces are the snacks as well. Even if they might not be the most nutritious, in small portions, at least makes them smile.
And make the case why it helps.
It helps because food insecurity is a serious problem, and the point of school is education, but we also are here to serve the whole student. And if our students aren't eating and they don't have food in their stomachs, then they are not going to be able to learn. And so starting with those root causes and those root needs can help us work towards a better whole student and a whole service.
Well, we want to thank the Assistant Superintendent of Schools for Student Services, Sarah Passarello, for joining us for the last 15 minutes to talk about Auburn School District's food drive. We encourage you to help out. If you have a student, if you have students in the district, you can always drop off food at your school, but if you're in the general community, you can send it over to either Thorne Avenue, which is the district offices. Just ring the buzzer in front, park in front, don't park on the side, helpful hint. Or you can bring it to your school, but you will have to be buzzed in. And we wish you well on this. This is an important item. And when I ran into the superintendent, we got talking about it, and she said, I have just the person for you to come in. So thank you for your time this afternoon, especially on a holiday day.
Thank you so much. We appreciate everyone.
We'll be back on Thursday with our final programs for the fall 2025 season. We'll have Jimmy Ginantino, the mayor of the city of Auburn, will be in. We'll be talking to him about the election results from earlier this month. We'll also be talking to him about the change in the city's decision about holding a holiday parade. Most likely not the most nutritious food handed out there, with candy thrown to kids along the route. And then we'll finish off with Senator Rachel May, who will be giving us an Albany update since the last time she was here. We'll also ask her for an Albany update on what the budget looks like. The state has to adopt a budget by April 1st, and we're looking forward to hearing what she sees as the funding programs for, especially for school districts, which will be seeing cuts from the federal government as time goes on in the next year. I'm Guy Cosentino for CU Community College. Thank you for watching. If you have some questions for us to ask, you can send them to COZGUYTHO. Otherwise, we'll see you back here in the studio on Thursday. Thank you. Great.